The transport shuttle shook as it entered the docking bay of station, grabbed the metal bar above her seat and held tight. Around her, alien creatures of all shapes and sizes sat calmly. They were used to space travel. She was not. The shuttle landed with a heavy thud. The doors opened and cold air rushed inside, stood up, grabbed her small bag and walked toward the exit. She was the last one to leave. She wanted to see everything first. Station was massive. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed inside the station. Buildings made of black metal rose in every direction. Thousands of aliens walked through the wide streets. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no skin at all, just floating lights in the shape of bodies. Had never seen anything like it. She was here for one reason: the Galactic Combat Academy. It was the most famous military school in the known universe. For 3,000 years, warriors from every species came here to train. The best fighters in the galaxy were graduates of this academy: generals, assassins, bodyguards of emperors. They all learned their skills on this station. No human had ever graduated. In fact, no human had survived the full training program. Most species thought humans were too weak, too small, too easy to kill. When applied to the academy, the officials laughed. They accepted her application anyway. It was a political gesture, nothing more. The human coalition had just joined the Galactic Union. Accepting one human student was a sign of goodwill. Nobody expected her to last. Walked through the registration building. Aliens towered over her on all sides. She was only 165 centimeters tall. Most of these creatures were twice her height. Their arms were thick with muscle. Their claws looked sharp enough to cut through steel. She kept her face calm and waited in line. When she reached the front desk, a four-armed creature looked down at her with 6 eyes. It blinked slowly. "Name?" it asked. "Human Coalition." The creature typed something into a floating screen. "Training Unit 7. Barracks C. Your instructor is Grand Master." It handed her a metal card. "Good luck. You will need it." Took the card and walked away. Training Unit 7 was located in the oldest part of the station. The buildings here were dirty and cracked. The lights flickered. Understood immediately. This was where they sent the students nobody cared about. The weak ones. The unwanted ones. She found Barracks C and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, she saw 2 creatures sitting on metal beds. One was in with thin arms and large black eyes. The other was huge, made entirely of rock, with glowing orange cracks running through its body. They jumped up in surprise. A human. They actually sent a human. The rock creature turned its massive head slowly. "Interesting. I did not think humans were real. I thought they were a myth." Dropped her bag on an empty bed. "I am real. My name is." They made a clicking sound with its mouth. This is," it pointed at the rock creature. "We are your bunkmates. Welcome to the worst unit in the academy." Sat down on her bed. The mattress was thin and hard. "Why is it the worst?" His eyes moved nervously. "Because our instructor is. He has trained warriors for 600 years. He is the most skilled fighter in the galaxy." Paused. "He has also killed 847 students during training." Said nothing. Spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "It is legal. The academy allows instructors to use deadly force during training. They call the deaths honorable sacrifices. But kills more students than any other instructor. Much more. He hates weak species," added. "He thinks we do not deserve to be warriors. He puts us in his unit so he can break us, or kill us." Looked at her small bag. Inside was a data pad with every piece of information she could find about the academy. She had spent 2 years preparing for this. She knew about the deaths. She knew she would probably die here. She came anyway. "When do we meet him?" she asked. "Tomorrow morning," said. "The first assessment. We must fight him in the combat ring. Most students last less than 30 seconds." That night did not sleep. She sat on her bed and read through combat manuals on her data pad. She studied alien fighting styles. She memorized attack patterns. She watched old recordings of fighting in tournaments. She watched him move. She watched him strike. She watched him kill. Outside her window, the station's artificial sun began to rise. Orange light filled the barracks, and were still sleeping. Stood up and stretched her body. Her muscles were tight. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was calm. She had been a soldier on Earth. She had fought in wars. She had killed enemies and watched friends die. She knew what combat felt like. She knew the smell of blood and the sound of breaking bones. The aliens here thought humans were weak. They saw small bodies and soft skin. They did not understand what made humans dangerous. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. But they were something else. Something the galaxy had never truly faced. Humans did not stop. They did not quit. They kept fighting until their hearts stopped beating. They chased prey across entire continents until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. Was not here to prove she was stronger than aliens. She was here to prove that strength was not everything. The door to the barracks opened. A tall guard stood in the entrance. His scales were dark green and his eyes were cold. "Training Unit 7, he announced. "Report to the combat arena. Grand Master is waiting." Picked up her training armor and walked toward the door, and followed behind her, their movements slow and afraid. Today, she would meet the creature who had killed hundreds of students. Today, she would step into his arena. She was not afraid, she was ready. The combat arena was enormous. Stone seats rose in circles around a flat fighting platform in the center. Hundreds of students sat in those seats, watching and waiting. Their eyes were hungry for violence. This was entertainment for them. Stood at the edge of the arena with the rest of Training Unit 7. There were 15 of them in total. Stood close to her, trembling slightly. Was calm, but his glowing cracks pulsed faster than normal. They were all afraid. In the center of the platform stood Grand Master. He was terrifying. Over 2 meters tall, his body was covered in thick red scales that looked like armor. His arms were long and muscular, ending in claws that curved like knives. His eyes were yellow with black slits, and they moved slowly across the students, examining each one like a predator choosing its meal. In his right hand, he held a plasma staff. It was not activated yet, but knew what it could do. One strike from that weapon could cut through metal. A voice echoed through the arena. "The first assessment will now begin. Each student must survive 3 minutes in combat against Grand Master. Weapons are not permitted for students. The Grand Master may use any level of force he chooses." Watched as the first student walked onto the platform. It was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 legs. It looked strong. It looked confident. Moved so fast that almost missed it. One moment he was standing still. The next moment the blue creature was on the ground, bleeding from 3 deep cuts across its chest. The fight lasted 8 seconds. Medical workers rushed onto the platform and carried the creature away. It was still alive, but barely. The next student lasted 12 seconds. The one after that lasted 6. One by one, the students of Training Unit 7 walked onto the platform and were destroyed. Did not even look tired. He was playing with them. Was called next. The small walked forward on shaking legs, looked down at it with disgust. "Another insect," he said. His voice was deep and cold. "Your species should stay in the dirt where you belong." Tried to dodge the first attack. It failed. Grabbed one of its thin arms and twisted. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the arena, screamed and collapsed. The fight was over in 4 seconds. Watched as they carried away. This arm hung at a wrong angle. It would heal, but the memory would not. Finally, her name was called. Walked onto the platform. The arena went quiet. Then the laughter started. Hundreds of aliens laughing at the tiny human who dared to enter the combat ring. She heard their words. So small. Is that a child? This will be quick. Did not laugh. He studied her with his yellow eyes. His scales shifted color slightly, turning a darker shade of red. A human, he said slowly. I have not killed a human in many years. Your species rarely has the courage to come here. Stood in the center of the platform. Her training armor was too big for her. It hung loose on her small frame. She looked ridiculous. She knew it. Walked toward her slowly. He did not activate his plasma staff. He did not even raise his claws. He was going to kill her with his bare hands. It would be more insulting that way. I have slain hundreds like you, he announced. His voice filled the entire arena. Weak, fragile, hopeful, they all come here thinking they are special. They all die the same way. Looked up at him. He was so much bigger than her. His shadow covered her completely. Any normal person would be frozen with fear. She smiled. Then you have been training for me. The arena went completely silent. Nobody was laughing anymore, even stopped moving. His eyes narrowed. What did you say? Kept smiling. Every weak creature you killed, every fragile body you broke, every hopeful student you destroyed, you were practicing, getting ready, and now I am here. Scales turned pure black. That meant rage, pure burning rage. He attacked. The next 3 minutes were the longest of his life, was faster than anything she had ever faced. His claws cut through the air like lightning. His tail swept at her legs. His body moved in patterns that should have been impossible for something so large. Did not try to fight back. She only tried to survive. She ducked under a claw strike. She rolled away from a tail sweep. She jumped over a low kick. Every movement was calculated. Every dodge was planned. She had watched hundreds of hours of fights. She knew his patterns. She knew when he liked to strike high. She knew when he preferred to sweep low. She knew the small pause he made before every killing blow. That knowledge kept her alive. But she could not dodge everything. A claw caught her shoulder and tore through her armor. Blood sprayed across the platform. A kick hit her ribs and sent her flying. She crashed onto the stone floor and tasted blood in her mouth. The crowd cheered. They wanted to see her die. Stood up. Stared at her. Something flickered in his yellow eyes. Surprise, maybe, or confusion. She was bleeding. Her ribs were probably cracked. Every breath hurt, but she was still standing. The timer showed 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Only 20 seconds left. Charged at her one final time. His claws aimed for her throat, a killing blow. Did not dodge. Instead, she stepped forward inside his reach. His claws passed over her head. For one single moment, she was close enough to touch him. Her palm shot forward and struck his throat. It was fast. It was precise. It was a killing blow, the kind that could crush a windpipe if done with enough force. She did not use full force. She was not trying to kill him. She was trying to prove a point. Stumbled backward, his hand touching his throat. His scales turned deep crimson. That color meant humiliation. The timer rang. 3 minutes were over. The arena was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Stood on the platform, bleeding and broken, but alive. She had done something no human had ever done. She had survived the first assessment. More than that, she had landed a strike on Grand Master. Looked at her with burning hatred. His voice was quiet now, dangerous. You passed the first assessment. He stepped closer, lowering his head until his eyes were level with hers. But you have made an enemy today, little human. I will break you. I will destroy everything you are. And when you finally die, it will not be quick. Bowed respectfully, ignoring the pain in her ribs. I know, she said softly. I am counting on it. She turned and walked off the platform. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Behind her, scales pulsed with black rage. The war had begun. The months that followed were hell. Did not hide his hatred. He made life as painful as possible. While other students trained in groups, she trained alone. While others rested between exercises, she was given new tasks immediately. While others slept at night, she was sent on solo missions to dangerous places. The first solo mission was on a death-world moon called 4. The atmosphere was toxic. The temperature dropped to -60 at night. Creatures with razor teeth hunted in packs across the frozen surface. Was dropped there with a broken oxygen mask and told to survive for 3 days. She survived for 4. When the shuttle came to pick her up, she was sitting calmly on a pile of dead creatures. She had killed 7 of them with rocks in her bare hands. Said nothing when she returned, but his scales turned darker. The second mission was a combat simulation. Was placed in a virtual arena against 10 opponents at once. They were programmed to fight at expert level. The simulation was designed to be impossible. Students were supposed to last as long as they could before dying. It took her 3 hours, but she defeated all 10 opponents. She used the environment against them. She made them fight each other. She waited for them to get tired, then struck at their weak points. The training officers had never seen anyone complete that simulation. They checked the computer 3 times to make sure there was no error. Increased her training load. Endurance marches came next. Was ordered to walk across the station's outer ring without water or rest. The distance was over 200 kilometers. The artificial gravity was set higher in that zone, making every step feel like carrying a heavy weight. Other students had attempted this march before. Most collapsed after 50 kilometers. A few made it to 100. Nobody had ever finished. Finished in 18 hours. When she reached the end point, her feet were bleeding through her boots. Her lips were cracked from dehydration. Her legs shook with every step. But she was standing. News of her achievements spread through the academy. Students from other units started to notice the small human who refused to break. They whispered about her in the hallways. They watched her during training. Some admired her. Others hated her for making them look weak. In Barrack C, something changed. Arm had healed, but that was different now. It no longer trembled when its name was mentioned. Instead, it started following to the training grounds, watching her techniques, trying to learn. "How do you do it?" asked one night. "How do you keep going when your body is broken?" Was stretching her legs, preparing for another night exercise. "On my planet, we have a saying, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. But that is impossible. You cannot stand up more times than you fall." "Exactly," smiled. "That is the point." Also changed. The big rock creature started protecting from the older students who tried to hurt her. When a group of senior cadets cornered her in a corridor, appeared behind them, his massive body blocking the entire hallway. The cadets ran away. "You do not need protection," said afterward, "but I wanted to help anyway." A small group formed around. Students from Training Unit 7 who had given up hope started to believe again. They trained harder. They studied more. They stopped accepting that they would fail. Noticed his anger grew. One night was running through the training maze. It was a complicated structure of tunnels and rooms designed to test navigation skills. She was supposed to find the exit before sunrise. She was halfway through when she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy footsteps, moving fast. Turned around. In the darkness she saw a shape. But not, this one was younger with bright green scales. "Hello, human," they said. His name was, and he was one of his favorite students. "The Grand Master sends his regards." Attacked without warning. He was fast and strong, trained by himself. His claws aimed for her throat. Moved. She had been preparing for this moment. She knew would try to kill her outside the arena, where there were no rules and no witnesses. She had studied anatomy. She knew their weak points. Expected an easy kill. Instead, he found himself fighting something he did not understand. The human was small and weak, but she moved like water flowing around his attacks. She did not try to match his strength. She redirected it, grabbed his first arm and twisted it against the joint. The bone snapped. Before could scream, she had already broken his second arm, then his third. Had 3 arms, she broke all of them. The final blow was to his jaw. She struck upward with her palm, using his own falling weight against him. The bone shattered, collapsed to the ground, unconscious and broken. The fight had lasted 11 seconds. Stood over him, breathing hard. Her knuckles were bleeding. One of his claws had cut her cheek. She left him there and continued through the maze. She found the exit before sunrise. The next morning, she reported to breakfast with a single bruise on her cheek. Nobody asked where it came from, but everyone saw being carried to the medical bay on a stretcher. Was in the dining hall, eating at the instructor's table. He watched sit down with her unit. His scales were pure black now. That color never changed anymore. Leaned close to her. You know he will not stop. He will keep sending people to kill you. Took a bite of her food. I know. Are you not afraid? Thought about the question. She remembered her training on Earth, the battles she had fought, the friends she had lost. She remembered why she came to this academy. I am not here to survive, she said quietly. I am here to win. Across the room, stood up from his table. He did not look at her as he walked out, but his claws left deep scratches in the metal table. The hunt was not over, it was just beginning. The announcement came on a cold morning. Final examination will begin in 7 days, the speakers declared throughout the station. All students must report to their assigned arenas. The crucible awaits. The crucible, every student in the academy knew what that meant. It was the final test. Students would face their primary instructor in unrestricted combat. No time limits, no safety rules. The fight would continue until one person could no longer stand. Deaths were common during the crucible. The academy called them honorable sacrifices. Students who died were remembered as brave warriors who gave everything for their training. Their names were carved into stone walls. There were many names on those walls. Gathered Training Unit 7 in an empty storage room that night, and 12 other students sat in a circle around her. The lights were dim. They spoke in whispers. Has volunteered to personally examine every member of our unit, said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were serious. Every single one of us. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. A thin creature with silver fur spoke up. Its name was, and it was usually too scared to talk. He is going to kill us all. That is his plan. He wants to destroy the entire unit. Yes, said, that is exactly his plan. Sraki body rumbled. Then we die with honor. That is the way of warriors. No's voice was sharp. We do not die, we change the game. She pulled out a data pad and placed it in the center of the circle. On the screen were documents, hundreds of documents, records, witness statements, medical reports. I have spent the last 8 months collecting evidence, explained. Every student has killed during training, every injury he has caused, every death he has called an accident. She pointed at the numbers on the screen. Look at the pattern. He does not kill students randomly. He targets specific species, species he considers inferior. Rock beings, aquatics, humans. Leaned forward, black eyes wide. That is against academy law. Instructors must treat all species equally. Exactly. Scrolled through more documents. There is an ancient law in the academy records, the right of dishonor. If a student can prove that an instructor has acted with prejudice or cruelty beyond training purposes, that instructor can be removed and punished. Hope flickered in the eyes of the students around her, but it faded quickly. There is a problem, said. To invoke the right of dishonor, someone must first challenge the instructor to single combat and win. The room went silent again. Nodded, yes. Someone must defeat in a fair fight. Only then can the evidence be presented to the High Council. But nobody can defeat, whispered. He is the greatest warrior in the galaxy. He has 600 years of experience. Looked around the circle at her friends. These creatures had suffered under for months. They had been beaten, humiliated, and broken. But they were still here. They had not quit. I will challenge him, she said. The words hung in the air like smoke. Shook his massive head. You are strong, stronger than any human we have known, but is not like his students. He is not like he is something else entirely. You will die. Maybe, smiled. It was the same smile she had worn on her first day in the arena. But I did not come here to survive. I came here to change something. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the station's artificial stars glowed in patterns across the dark sky. She had looked at those stars every night since she arrived. They reminded her of home. On Earth, we have a history of facing impossible enemies, she said softly. Armies that outnumbered us, diseases that should have destroyed us, ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We survived all of it. Do you know why? Nobody answered. Because we do not know how to stop. Our bodies break, but our will does not. Other species are stronger, faster, smarter, but humans are stubborn. We keep pushing until we win or until our hearts stop beating. There is no middle ground. She turned back to face her unit. Has killed hundreds of students. He has trained for 6 centuries. He knows every fighting style, every technique, every trick. He is perfect. His eyes burned with something fierce. But he has never faced a human who was ready for him. He has never fought someone who spent months studying every move he makes. He has never met an enemy who will not stop, no matter how much pain she feels. She picked up the data pad and held it tight. I am going to challenge him in the arena. I am going to invoke the right of dishonor. And I am going to show the entire galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. Stood up slowly. What do you need from us? I need you to survive, said. When the crucible begins, we'll try to kill you before he faces me. Do not fight him. Run. Hide. Do whatever you must to stay alive until I can challenge him. Once I invoke the right of dishonor, the examination must stop until the challenge is resolved. Rose to his feet, his massive body filling the room. We will survive for you. One by one, the other students stood up. All of them. They stood around like soldiers around their general. If you die, we will remember you, said. We will tell stories about the human who stood against a monster. Shook her head. Do not remember me, help me win. She walked toward the door. Before she left, she looked back one more time. In 7 days, everything changes. Either falls or I do. There is no other outcome. She stepped into the corridor and disappeared into the darkness. In the storage room, Training Unit 7 stood in silence. They were afraid. They were uncertain. But for the first time in months, they also felt something else. Hope. The Crucible Arena was the largest in the academy. Stone seats rose 50 levels high, filled with thousands of spectators. Students from every unit. Instructors from every department. Even the High Council sat in their elevated box, watching with ancient eyes. Word had spread throughout the station. Something unprecedented was about to happen. A human was going to challenge Grand Master. The arena floor was made of dark stone, polished smooth by centuries of blood and battle. In the center stood, his red scales gleaming under the bright lights. His plasma staff blazed with blue fire. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd, hungry and confident. He had killed 3 students from Training Unit 7 already that morning. Quick deaths, efficient. The rest had escaped into the station, hiding as had instructed, was annoyed but not worried. He would find them later. First, he wanted the human. The arena doors opened, walked in alone. She wore simple training clothes, no armor, no weapons. Her black hair was tied back and her face was calm. She looked small, she looked fragile, she looked like prey. The crowd roared with excitement. They had been waiting for this moment. The famous human who had embarrassed the Grand Master on her first day. The stubborn creature who had survived every punishment had thrown at her. Today, they would finally watch her die. Walked to the center of the arena and stopped 10 meters from. She bowed respectfully, as tradition required. Did not bow back. His scales had turned pure black. "You may arm yourself," he said. His voice echoed through the arena. Straightened up, "I do not need weapons." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Even some of the High Council members smiled. The human was either brave or insane, probably both. His eyes narrowed. "Then you have chosen to die quickly. I will grant you that mercy." He raised his plasma staff and attacked. The fight began. Was everything the legend said. 600 years of combat experience. Muscles that could crush steel. Speed that physics. His plasma staff moved like lightning, cutting through the air where it had been standing moments before. But she was never there. Moved differently than any opponent had ever faced. She did not try to block his attacks. She did not try to match his power. She flowed around him like water around a stone. When he struck high, she was already low. When he swept at her legs, she was already jumping. She had studied him for 8 months. Every fight he had ever recorded, every pattern he used, every habit he had developed over 6 centuries. She knew when he would pause before a killing blow. She knew when his weight would shift before a charge. She knew him better than he knew himself. The crowd went quiet. Something was wrong. The human should be dead by now. Instead, she was still dancing around the Grand Master untouched. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Was breathing harder now. His strikes were becoming wilder. His movements were losing their perfect form. He had never fought this long against a single opponent. He had never needed to. "Stand still," he roared. His staff cut through the air, missing by centimeters. "Fight me properly." Did not answer. She kept moving, she kept dodging, she kept waiting. 20 minutes. Scales were turning pale, his muscles were burning, sweat dripped from his body. Was bleeding from a dozen small cuts. Her ribs ached from a glancing blow, every breath hurt, but she did not slow down. This was what humans did. They endured, they outlasted, they waited for their prey to tire. 30 minutes. His attacks had slowed by half. His plasma staff felt heavy in his hands. His legs were shaking. Saw her moment. She stepped inside his reach, just like she had done on her first day. His staff passed over her head. For one heartbeat, she was close enough to touch him. Her hands moved like snakes. She grabbed his staff arm at the wrist and twisted. The joint bent the wrong way. Bone cracked. Screamed. The plasma staff fell from his broken hand. Did not stop. She spun around his body and struck the back of his knee. He dropped to the ground. She jumped onto his back and wrapped her arm around his throat. He was so much bigger than her, so much stronger, but she had perfect leverage, and she had something he had lost. She still had energy. Thrashed and struggled. His remaining hand clawed at her arm, cutting deep gashes into her skin. Blood poured down both their bodies, but she did not let go. Slowly his movements weakened. His claws stopped scratching. His body went limp. Held on for 5 more seconds, then released him. He collapsed onto the stone floor, unconscious but alive. The arena was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Stood over the body of the greatest warrior in the galaxy. She was covered in blood, most of it her own. Her arms were shaking. Her vision was blurry. But she was standing. She turned to face the High Council. Her voice was hoarse but clear. "I invoke the right of dishonor." The words echoed through the silent arena. "This instructor has committed 847 murders disguised as training accidents," continued. "He has targeted specific species for elimination. He has acted with prejudice and cruelty beyond any training purpose." She pulled a small data chip from her pocket and held it up. "I have evidence, witnesses, Records. I demand judgment." The High Council members looked at each other. In 3,000 years, nobody had ever invoked this ancient law. They did not know what to do. Before they could respond, moved. He was not unconscious. He had been waiting, saving his last strength for one final attack. He lunged at from behind, his remaining hand reaching for her throat, his claws aimed to tear out her windpipe. Did not turn around. She had heard his breathing change. She knew he would try this. Her palm shot backward, striking his throat, the same killing blow from their first fight. This time, she did not hold back. His eyes went wide. He made a choking sound, then he fell. He did not get up again. The arena exploded with noise. Thousands of voices shouting, screaming, crying. Nobody could believe what they had just witnessed. A human had killed Grand Master. Swayed on her feet, her body was broken. She had nothing left, but before she collapsed, she looked up at the High Council one more time. "Humanity sends its regards," she whispered. Then everything went dark. 3 months later stood in the graduation hall of the Galactic Combat Academy. She was the first human to ever graduate. Beside her stood 8 other members of Training Unit 7. They had all survived. They had all passed. The High Council had reviewed her evidence. Centuries of murder were exposed. New laws were created to protect students from abusive instructors. After the ceremony, the council head approached. He was ancient, with scales and tired eyes. "We would like to offer you's position," he said. "Grand Master of Combat Training, you have earned it." Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her people. "No," she said, "I did not come here to become an instructor." "Then why did you come?" She turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, but something burned deep inside them. "To prove something." "And what was that?" Smiled. It was the same smile she had worn on her first day. "That you should never underestimate something that refuses to stop." She walked out of the hall and took a shuttle to the frontier. There were other academies in the galaxy, other masters who had never faced a human, other traditions that needed breaking. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. They saw small bodies and short lives. They saw weakness. They did not see the truth. The most dangerous creature is not the strongest or the fastest. It is the one that keeps getting back up. Was just the beginning.